to the Coach V Show, your show for personal and professional development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life. Offering for your consideration success frameworks, behavioral models, and life lessons that you would consider to deploy and apply into your life, not only just to achieve success, but now translate that into the juice of life, which is joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, love, and family time. Today on Island Cities, the Coach V Show, powered by Dash Radio in Hollywood, California, we have Brother Ryan Thompson on the show, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise, where Ryan Thompson works to inspire conscious travel and adventure and change the way that people consume goods and move through the world. He is the founder and CEO of ORRA, a brand and ethos that was inspired while he was flying over the Great Pacific Garbage Patch as an airline pilot. My backyard, the Pacific Ocean. Over the last few years, Ryan has built a team of skillful, impact-driven leaders who bring rich in world travel experience and extensive knowledge of sustainable materials and soft goods manufacturing to support the mission to combat environmental decline while helping people travel in a smarter way. Ryan remains active as a commercial airline pilot for United Airlines, operating international routes in the Boeing 787, my son's favorite Dreamliner. And then prior to his airline career, Ryan served in multiple overseas combat zone deployments with the United States Air Force Security Services. Shout out to the U.S. Armed Forces. Ryan received a master's in aeronautical science from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University while working as a habilitation counselor to developmentally disabled children. He has been an avid surfer since early childhood in Hawaii and on the beaches of Southern California, and has a deep love for the ocean. He spends his free time traveling in the outdoors of Los Angeles with the wifey and his 2 kids. About ORRA. ORRA is an oceanic centric eco-travel gear company dedicated to responsible travel and global citizenry. It designs high-performance, sustainably engineered travel goods using the latest in creative sourcing and upcycled and organic materials, including fabrics made with recycled plastic bottles and foam made with algae harvested from polluted waterways. ORRA is one of the few brands in the industry that has adopted ethical sourcing and manufacturing as a core part of its DNA. Coach V family and the Coach V Show family, welcome to the show, your boy, Ryan Thompson. Ryan, welcome to the Coach V Show. Take 2, in fact. This is take 2 of it. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. The intro like that, I feel like I've made it. Coming from a legend.
Oh, man, it is my pleasure. And really the work that you're doing and the things that has really sparked this purpose of you is really our honor, both for Island City, the Dash Radio family, and the Coach V Show to have you on the list of distinguished guests that's going to bring some major value. No pressure, but you better bring some value. so in that, Ryan, just tell us your genesis story. Where did Ryan start? Where are you from? I've heard so much about you from Brother Mighty Paul and Eddie Pham. Shout out to the boys. What's your story, Ryan?
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, thank you to the Island City crew. It feels like Ohana straight away. You guys are so good to me. And of course, Mighty Paul and Eddie just means a lot. I grew up, I was born right here in LA, man. I was born in Venice Beach, California. Venice was a very different place back then. I don't know if you remember. I know you're a SoCal boy, so you know what Venice was about. It wasn't Silicon Beach, I can tell you that. It was a vastly different upbringing, but it was a good place to come up. We were poor, right? But we had access to the beach, so it didn't matter. You didn't need much when you could get in the water. So, but yeah, man, I grew up in LA, Hawaii, and then ended up doing some of my formative years, high school years in Minnesota. So kind of had like 3 different childhoods, you know. I would bounce back and forth between LA and Hawaii. My dad was in the islands. My mom was in LA. So I think if they couldn't handle me, they'd send me off to the other one. And they'd send me off again, which wasn't bad though. I got exposure to, a lot of beautiful things. Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. It was a rough upbringing. In Venice, as you know, the 80s and 90s weren't kind to Southern California, especially poor cities, poor towns, and crack had its way with where we were in LA, and our family was no exception to that. My mom was a severe addict to drugs, and that left me sort of picking up the slack, taking care of my brother and sister. I grew up in Rasta culture. My brother and sister are half black. My stepdad was Rastafarian. I grew up in that Rasta vibe. But when crack came in, it was a different vibe. It was no longer the Irie roots rock reggae. It was more serious. And I had to take care of my brother and sister while my mom was away, and that was rough, man. It was a school of hard knocks. But I'll tell you what, I learned a lot from that. And then like I couldn't even stretch out. I had to get into an ass ball to go to sleep. So it was a wild upbringing, brother. But it made me who I am. I'll tell you that.
Right. So in that upbringing, let's start. So born in SoCal, correct? And how was that?
Yeah.
How was that early life? So you're talking about some struggles, but what was fun to you about growing up, and what were the challenges specifically, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
Yeah. So I mean, listen, I'll tell you what, man. I had it a lot better than my brother and sister did, because I think the first 5 years of my life there was a lot of love. And there's none of that severe addiction, so and those are very formative years, right? So I had that to kind of guide me in the right direction, and serve as a rudder into childhood. And it's not like it was all bad. I was a kid with no rules and a skateboard in Venice Beach. You know what I mean? Like I just go out to the beach. I would run errands for the street performers. There was Tony the Tiger who would bounce somebody on his chin. I would go get him stuff. Animation, the break dancer. I'd collect money for him when he was doing his show, and it was cool, man. Like just skating, having a good time, living that SoCal life. But there was some serious stuff too. One of the specific struggles was my mom would leave. And we were young. My sister wasn't born yet. My brother's 5 years younger than me, and I was around, I want to say 8 or 9, and my mom left, and she was gone for a few days, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if she was alive, so I ended up calling the police. That's what they teach in school: call 911 if something's wrong, right? So I call 911. The cops come. They go through our house. They take us into the station, and then they put us in foster homes. Well, my brother's 4 or 5 years old. He doesn't know how to look out for himself, and they switch us into multiple foster homes in South Central. And that's a sketchy place. These foster homes there was no oversight there. Some of these folks were just having a bunch of kids in their house so they get some money from the state. It was not necessarily folks doing it for the right reasons. And so we were stuck in these foster homes for a few days, and I just, finally, we went to court. My mom got us back, and I swore I would never involve any authorities again. And so from that point on, it was me looking out for my family. And so I kind of had to grow up fast, because I became sort of the caretaker to my brother, and the one that had to kind of fend for our survival. And but I did it, man. And I'll tell you what, those those school of hard knocks, like those sort of traumas, they eventually become treasures, because like I'm battle tested, right? I was battle tested before I ever went to a war in Afghanistan, because
Right.
I already know what that's like, you know? So I'm grateful for that. And then, you know, I got this exposure to Hawaii as well. So I would move back and forth every couple of years. And, you know, I definitely was one of the only kids that looked like me in Hawaii and in LA, you know. But it was cool to get that exposure, to know what life is like as a minority, right? Like, I actually know I'm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white boy that knows what it's like to be a minority. And that's an insight that not many folks that look like me have, you know? So it was cool. And then, of course, the beautiful nature of Hawaii, the mana and everything, the spirit of the islands and the aloha spirit. It's just, you can't argue against that. Like, there's so much beauty in that, right? And then just in the Pacific, like that's where I was. So I spent so much time in the Pacific that, like, that was my home more than any other home, right? And that was a place where none of this shit mattered, right? It didn't matter that we were poor. It didn't matter that my stepdad was whooping my ass. It didn't matter that, you know, my mom was gone, because, like, this is a time to be in the moment. You know, the new phrase for that is flow state, right? Like, you can be in a flow state. You're just there. And so the Pacific was very good to me. And then, yeah, past that, you know, I get into high school, and I had an uncle that lived in St. Paul, Minnesota, and he came to visit in the islands, and he was like, Ryan, your life is a mess, man. Like, you're not going to do well if you keep going down this road. And he was absolutely right. And so, out of the goodness of his own heart, he invited me to come live with him and his wife. And then I moved to Minnesota, and I had never seen so many white people, you know, like, and you know, I was a feral child. Like, you know, you grow up like LA, Hawaii, like, it's very much a warrior culture, right? Like, you have beef, you got your flip-flops, you knock them out, or you get an ass whooping, right? So I went to Minnesota, and I'll never forget, I was in this class, and this kid said something to me, and it was like those are scrapping words in the islands, right? So I popped out and started punching him, and they were like, whoa, what are you doing? And I was like, no, but do you hear what he said? And they were like, yeah, but you can't hit people. Yeah. So it took some adjustments, you know, to get to that sort of more civilized, you know, Midwestern culture.
Yeah, that is just so amazing, right? And so I heard a legend through asking around about you, that you are a street tough and seasoned, hardened street guy.
Wow.
Right. Because, you know, I rolled with a bunch of Crips, but I was really a wannabe. Right. I was just a wannabe. I was an athlete. I was a student athlete that just really, those were my boys from church, or those were my boys from my neighborhood. But I claimed stuff, but I really wasn't no gangster. But I heard you rolled with some Crips and you had some experience that way too. What's up with that? Man, share with the audience that. And if you could, please, Ryan, talk about the life lessons that you learned. I talk to my clients right off the bat that I coach one-on-one, and my corporate clients, about knowledge plus accountability equals empowerment. Yeah. So knowledge is that you know what you want to do or want to achieve, who you are, what direction you go in life, leadership, or business. But accountability now is the reflection of that awareness and that knowledge that leads to empowerment. It sounds like you had to grow up at a very young age, but then you're rolling around in like South Central LA, and then back in Venice, where it's not like the high prestige place it is now, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. So what does that, like that accountability and this legend of you, I mean, going from the streets of the hood to fighting for our country, but let's start on the front end of that, of this street experience.
Yeah. Well, as I said, man, you know, I was very much into Rasta culture and Black culture. I thought I was Black until I was about 12 years old, and I wanted to be. I remember being so pissed off that my hair didn't do what Black hair did, and and all my friends were black, right? So and so it seemed only natural. There was gangs were a big thing. That's how you stayed alive in Venice back in the day.
That's right. That's right.
And that's how you made your money. You had to sling that crack to make the dough. I mean, it's just what everybody did, right? You were on a pipeline, and so there was the Venice Shoreline Crips. And then there was B13 was kind of the Mexican gang, Venice Shoreline Black gang. And then there was this, I mean, it was like a training squad called the Baby Insane Crips. And they were like, they would lead up to the Venice Shoreline Crips. And I mean, it's just a bunch of kids, their uncles, their dads, they're all claiming Crips. And so they kind of do the same thing. And, at some point, these are all my boys. And somebody was like, let's jump Thompson and let's jump Ryan. And for me, it was like, all I got to do is catch an ass whooping and then I'm accepted in this.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do that, And so I did. And I mean, it was pretty innocent at that age. Like, we weren't doing anything too gnarly, but there was definitely something going on. It was definitely leading up to that gangsta life. And then, at some point, I got jumped out. I don't know what happened, the politics around that. But I think one of the OGs in the little kid gang was like, we can't have a white boy in the gang. I ended up catching another ass whooping, and that one hurt worse. It was down in Oakwood. I don't know if you know Oakwood. It's where all the OGs still chill these days.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's funny because I'm definitely probably the only white boy that was ever jumped into that little gang,
But then now leading to this awareness of like, man, I ain't calling the cops, not if they split the family up. Because now you go from this hard life of this right being on the edge, right? Because all it takes to jump over the edge is to do something, or like me, my ass just never got caught doing some stupid shit.
Yeah.
Right? Back when I was younger, and that pushes you over the edge. So you were riding the edge, you were just in the mix of it, but then you felt this accountability for family and taking responsibility at an age that normally a lot of us don't have to have that, because I grew up in a 2-parent home. We were poor too, right? We were poor, and some of the best meals I had was the free lunch at school, but I had my folks. But you felt this sense of accountability and responsibility. Where did that come from? And share the life lesson behind that.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's human nature, right? Like, we will always do more for someone else than we will for ourselves. And we're all built like that. And so if you want to do more in life, like, provide service, serve others, and you will do more in life. That's the way that works. And you just have to align with it. And I didn't have a choice. All I did was we're programmed the way we are. And I had a little brother that didn't know how to wipe his own ass. Right. And so I had to keep that boy alive. And I knew that I had a better chance of doing that if he's with me. So I'm not going to let us get split up into weird foster homes again. And then, there were folks that helped us out. Folks knew, your mom's run away again, huh? Like, come over to our house and stay for a few days, And so it was a combination of me stepping up to the plate, but then the tribe of Venice, right? Like, everybody, they knew what was going on. They knew the dynamic. They knew, let's not talk about Ryan's mom being a crackhead, but let's just step up. Let's give them a hot dog. Let's give them some food, whatever they need. So there's no cosmic, algorithm behind it. It's how we work. You look out for others.
Yeah, that's right. So, but you figured out how to get out.
Yeah.
You figured out how to stay out. You figured out that you weren't about that life, right? That's the term. Like, man, you ain't about that life. And I was like, you're right. I was really never about that life. And I'm just glad. And you didn't get caught up. And then you transitioned from there. Where did you go after that?
So after there, I went back to the islands. And the next step was junior high in upcountry Maui. And the first day, I got dropped off, and I'm looking at all your little cousins, like these guys that had 200 pounds, full mustache in 7th grade. I thought I got
Gray hair.
I thought up at the high school. I was like, nope, they made a mistake. This is the high school.
Right.
And then you know what? Like you, like sports, right? Like if you can
Yeah.
get into sports, then you got to test yourself, right? Like your grit is going to get tested in life, and it's up to you to either set up those tests or let life set those tests up for you. And so what I did was I played football, I played baseball, and that became our life, right? That became my jam.
Right.
And you know, I wasn't talented like you were in art, but I was crazy, right? Like I was the kid that they would have on the as a running back against the first string defense. So they would let me start in a game only because I didn't get my ass whooped all week long with the first string defense. You know what I mean? And it was fun as hell, and the camaraderie that comes with that, right? And then what that leads to, you know, just the people you become that you have in your inner circle when you do things like that, it all changes, it levels you up. So that was probably the first catalyst to going into a different path for me.
Oh yeah. Shout out Upcountry Maui. Shout out Kit Kaulike. So I coach the athletic department there, and I'm usually there every other quarter or so, but just because of COVID, I have not been back. So in that, you're talking about like these struggles, and how about talking about the Polynesian culture? Because it's very, you know, trece, like, right, back in Venice, right? It's a very shore view crypt, like it's like blood in, blood out.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're an outsider. I mean, we treat each other like outsiders until but once you're in, it's like, ohana, right? Like we're all good, right? It's like you get fed, and if you, it's like to show you love, we feed you, and you get to be a part of everything, and you get to, I mean, you're all in. But then once you're on the dark side of that, it's like you all out, right? So talk about experiencing the Polynesian culture and all that, and then being accepted. What are the life lessons? You said, you know, you level up, you become accepted, you go through and not expect anything, but you earn respect. I mean, talk about that, please.
You know, I love Polynesian culture and Hawaiian culture, and they've done a good job of maintaining the warrior spirit, right? Like I said, you know, you got beef, you kick off your flip flops, you go at it, and then you shake hands, right? Like
right.
And that's honestly how it should be, you know. Like we're one step away from cavemen, and like that's how we're programmed. Like just let it go, you know? But so you know, I'll never forget, man. My first day in first grade, I was, you know, transferring back to the islands, and I'm going to Makwa Elementary, and we walk into the class, and the first thing we hear is some kid in the back row go, "Haole!"
Yeah. Who's Haole? You Haole, Haole.
Like you're very much an outsider,
right?
And until proven, right? So you got to do something. You got to show you have that mana, right? Like so. You can be funny, you can be kind, you can be tough. Like you got to do something to like show, like, are you a good surfer? You know, like you skimboarder, boogie, whatever. But like you got to show that you have that mana before you'll be let in. And so for me, that avenue was sports, right? Like you play, you know, you played on the same baseball team as the bull, right? Like the toughest kid in your class, and then next thing you know, that's your boy, right? And
right.
You know, like you kind of been accepted because he accepts you, but it's simple, but it's logical, and I respect that culture. I respect the warrior culture of the islands and all through Polynesia. I think that's it's a theme that rings true through a lot of the islands, and I think here in the States we've gotten so sensitive, right? Just so sensitive, and like just let them wrestle. You know, that's the way I see it, you know?
Yeah. Especially because like my wife, she's half South Central LA black and Dairy Farm, Wisconsin white.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So my kids, yeah. So my kids are we call it half, or like they're quarter half. And my wife always go, yeah, that's Tongan humor. Right, because it's just like rough. It's like straight. It's like straight up. Like Well, it broke because your dumb ass left it on the floor. You know what I mean? So what about that? What about that? Now assimilating to, it's just like it never ends with our people, right? You're always nitpicking at each other, right?
Yeah.
Always nitpicking,
Yeah.
always talking about the negatives, but yet we're so tight, and it's okay for me to do it to you.
Yeah.
But if somebody else does it to you, now it's on. What about that, Ryan? Talk about that.
Yeah, man. Once you're in, man, once you've proven your worth, it's almost like you are now part of the tribe, right? And if anything outside of that comes at you, it doesn't matter. Like, you can have beef with this guy in the morning, but if somebody from outside of that circle comes out at you and starts puffing up his chest, like, no, he's right back there, like, and there's loyalty. Once you're in, and it's almost like gang culture, honestly. Like, if you're in.
Tribe, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or what we used to say back in SoCal, right? Man, we're gonna put you on the set, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how that's 90s terminology.
There's nothing worse than that. Because if you're out, you're done.
Yeah, no doubt. And then so you have this St. Paul, Minnesota experience. You have this SoCal, Venice Beach experience, being split up and having to fend for yourself, and then feeling that Ohana vibe. And then now you go to school. What the school and the further education, how did you do that? And talk about now going to serve, as a hero for the country. What was that like? And tell us what that was.
I'll tell you what, I didn't think I was smart. I never did well in school, right? And I look back on it now, I had to get all the way I have a master's in aeronautical science from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. It's as good as it gets for a pilot, right?
Right.
I had to do all that just to prove to myself, no, man, you're smart. But that's a waste of time. Like, what I realize now looking back on that is I wasn't good at school because this is an antiquated system and I never believed it, right? Like, you're teaching people to go be like cogs in a blue collar factory worker job. And if you have these kids that aren't aligning with that, that's not bad, right? You can't pump these kids full of Adderall and Ritalin and like, so they assimilate. Like, you need to make them thrive, right?
Right.
But our system did not appreciate that theory back then.
Right.
I just never did well in school, brother. It was hard for me. I had too much energy. I had too much going through my mind, and it just wasn't my thing. And so now that said, I graduated high school, and I got through that. I had some exposure to some really good people, because I had kind of a rough upbringing with my dad too. I was eventually, my dad moved to the Twin Cities, and we weren't getting along, and things were getting physical, and it just wasn't, he wasn't around, and so it just wasn't a good environment for me. My high school sweetheart, her family took me in, and I lived with my high school sweetheart in high school, which is just like,
wow. And what was this? Where was this?
What's that?
Was it in Hawaii or SoCal? Or?
This is when. So I started in Maui High, and then went to Minnesota for high school.
Okay, yeah.
And then just the Goldsteins, man, just this incredibly kind, like, understanding family that showed me the right amounts of love and patience, mostly patience, and got me through high school. And then it was like, I don't have any options that are good right now. And it was my own fault, right? Like, I'm the one who dicked off in high school. But I wanted to do something, and I was always drawn to airplanes. I was just always drawn to the sky, right? Like, the ocean and the air is where I'm drawn to. And I thought the Air Force could be a way to get into that, right? Just get closer to those magical machines, right? And so I ended up enlisting in the Air Force. And it was exactly what I needed, because I thrived in that environment. I grew up,
Structure, discipline, right? Structure.
Absolutely, man. Like, a kid like me needs structure. Like, what I could have used was like rules, like parents that said, this is the way it's done, to really harvest the power that I did have. And I didn't have that, but then I got into the military and I did have it. and I really, really thrived in that environment, and I appreciated it, and I was all in. I got on a EST team right away out of my initial training, so that's like a SWAT team, but we don't call it SWAT because it's like everybody in the military has special weapons and tactics, right? So I got on that EST team right away, and then I got on a competition team that was called Contending Warrior Defender Challenge, where you're competing and shooting and obstacle courses and tactics and all these like cool like military events. And then 9/11 happened, and I was itching to get overseas, man. I wanted to have some impact. I was mad just like everybody, but I actually had the ability to go do something. And so I got on with this unit out of Moody Air Force Base down in South Georgia. And we were a worldwide quick response force. And our job was to get into a new place, set up security to defend that base, and then train either locals or Army or Marines on how to secure that. And it was amazing, man. I was one of the first folks into Afghanistan, and in Bagram we were in early 2002, setting up the base, like clearing things out, like dodging landmines. And it was so early in the campaign that we all felt like we were really doing something,
Right.
And so, yes, that was that. And one of the cool sort of aspects of that is I got this exposure to new culture, right? And Afghani culture is very interesting because these folks have been at war forever. Like,
war the beginning of time, right?
Yeah, literally, like go back, pick a time in history, and they've been at war, And there's beauty in that because these people are so raw and so like resilient. And I'll never forget, man, one time I was on one of my first off-base missions, and we're on a convoy. We're gonna go meet with this warlord to trade probably money for some intel or something. And I saw this kid, and he was doing something weird, and I thought, oh, he might be signaling to start an ambush, because you can clearly see this is a U.S. military convoy, right?
Right.
And I'm starting to get ready to go, and the guy who I was flying or driving with was Army Spec Ops guy, clearly had better intel than I did, and he was like, "No, don't worry about it. He's just walking home from school, but there's landmines on that path." And I was like, are you shitting me? Like, I thought I had it bad growing up in LA. This fool has to dodge landmines on the way to get educated. You know what I mean? And so it just really opened up my eyes to
perspective, right?
Perspective. Yes. And then also, you meet these interpreters and the folks that work for the warlords, and like you share tea, break bread, and you realize like there are universal truths amongst all us humans, like whatever God they're praying to, whatever, like they believe in their heart, it's pretty much the same thing. They got a different language, they eat different food, they got a different dynamic, but it's the same thing. But like those universal truths amongst humans are very similar. So that was a cool sort of, peripheral experience that I got access to through being in the war.
Man, so you leave the hood of Venice, South Central LA, the upcountry of Maui, right? And you go to probably, like you're saying and alluding to, historically on our planet, the battleground of battlegrounds. I mean, we're talking about like from Alexander the Great days, right? I mean, it just goes back. And then now you're really not just like kicking off the flip-flops, the slippers. You're not just kicking off the slippers and beef. Well, you like beef, right?
It's a little higher stakes.
To like it's on.
Yeah.
And then now you're taking a structure, a training, and a discipline, and you're deploying it according to your response with the reaction of this fight or flight, because you always have that, right? Mm-hmm. But then you respond according to your training.
Yeah.
So here you come from an undisciplined, right? Really no structured environment to where now you're demanded that on demand that you deploy and then you respond according to your training. What was that like?
I'll tell you what, man, it's cool. You know, as an armed service member, you never want war, right?
Right, right.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to hurt someone else. No one wants to go through that. It's hard. But if you have to go there and you have to perform your duties, you've been training years for that, right? Like this is your chance. It's like when you're in a championship game, how many knocks did you take to get to that point, right? Like how many walls did you have to break through, go climb over, run around? Like, I mean, that's what going to a war zone is. It's now everything's on. Like this is game time. We are doing this, and it's pretty cool to see it all come together, you know, and have that camaraderie with your teams, right? And just all have each other's backs, and it's just it's a neat experience that so few folks in this life actually get exposure to, but it's of great value for folks, you know.
Yeah, no question. No question, because I call it in business like shit gets real.
Yep.
Right. This shit just got real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All the training now, it's because you could talk and you could theorize about it, but that's the difference between a theorist and a practitioner.
Yeah.
Right. That's the difference between a rookie and a professional.
Right.
When shit gets real, you could respond and really perform and execute on a level where the probability of success is greater.
Yeah.
You're now just engaging in your fear, right?
Right.
Or in this fight or flight. But now it's like shit gets real. But that's different though than what we can coach and train about, because in your field, like people die.
Right.
Difference there.
You know, my unit, we didn't have it as bad as a lot of, you know, the spec ops units, these SEAL teams, like these guys losing lots of buddies, right? Like our unit, we lost one guy in those few campaigns, and it messed some of us up, right? I wasn't tight with the guy that we lost, but some of my closest friends were, and they're losing sleep about it still. All these years later, it's 20 years later, and they're still
saying,
you know, one of my best friends was the fire team leader that was in charge of that patrol that day. And his you know, turret gunner got sniped in Iraq, and it's just like it's very tragic, right? But that level of severity, like that level of intensity, those risks, that being what can happen, that's what all that training is for, right? And so something that's very important for folks to understand, and this applies to any high stakes thing, you know, airlines it applies, military it applies, even, you know, high level sports it applies. You don't rise to the occasion. That's not how it works ever. You fall to the highest level of your training, right? That's where you go.
Again, for the audience, say that again.
Yeah. So you never rise to the occasion. Don't ever expect that. You always fall to the highest level of your training.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Keep going, Ryan. Just keep going. Yeah.
Anyway, you know, the military was great for me. I was there in Afghanistan. I truly enjoyed the experience, right? There's some bad parts to it, but I enjoyed the beauty of the culture, and the fact that we were having impact, right? And then I was in Djibouti, Africa. You know the capital of Djibouti?
No.
It's Djibouti. It's Djibouti. Djibouti. But this is no shit, the hottest country on the planet. Like, look it up. Guinness Book of World Records. Hottest country on the planet. And after Afghanistan, where we felt like we were really getting shit done, going over there, you know, there was the Somali pirates down there. There's some crazy shit going over out in Yemen. But it was kind of a boring deployment for me because, you know, there was no hot action going on, right? It was just, we're pulling security for some of these aircraft and this and that. And it wasn't as fun. The most action I saw in Djibouti was I got attacked by a pack of hyenas one night when I was deep in the desert.
What?
Yeah.
Talk about shit gets real. You got attacked by, like, how many hyenas? How many?
Bro, I mean, there was, you want me to tell a story? It is a quick story. Like,
yeah, please. Because, I mean, hyenas roll in packs.
They do, and they're gnarly, man. They got big old jaws. I think it's like the third strongest bite in the animal kingdom. So we had someone that was breaching the perimeter wire, right? They were kind of cutting it, and so from a military tactics standpoint, you don't want to have a bunch of patrols go out there and have them know, okay, they're there, so they can think, okay, we can set up a diversion over here by cutting the wire, and then we could go attack over there, right? Or some mortars in from here. And so what my flight sergeant wanted to do was, let's send Thompson out in the middle of the night by himself with like he'll do a stealth patrol. And I don't know, I mean, I'm sure you know a little something about military stuff, but like this is military 101. Nobody goes anywhere by themselves. Like
by themselves.
Always, So it's like 2, 3 in the morning, and I'm about 5 kilometers east of our sort of base where this guy had been doing something to the perimeter fence.
Right.
And he does the patrol, and it's one of those light armored Humvees, so there's no doors. And so we're just driving real slow, and I just kind of roll off the side and kind of, hide in some bush and wait for him to leave. And then I'm kind of just scoping things out to see if anybody's around. Well, about 20 minutes into it, I couldn't see anything because there's no moonlight. It's 2 in the morning. And so I was like, I got to get my MBGs to work, right? So I put my MBGs on. I can't get them to work, but I had a feeling like something's off here,
Tell the audience what that stands for, MBG.
Oh, I'm sorry. Night vision goggles. Night optics,
Yeah.
So essentially, like, you've seen that green stuff for night vision. And so I replace the batteries. I'm troubleshooting. I turn them on and off, and then okay, I got them to go. I do a quick 360 scan, and I get to my 6 o'clock, and there's a fucking hyena, man, and it's right there, and it's scary as hell. It's like, how that night vision stuff looks. Like its eyes look like they were on fire. The devil. I was like, oh man, like what is that? And then you can see another one over yonder. And so I'll tell you what, man, like we get zero training on hyenas. Like none.
Fight or flight.
And I didn't know what to do because, this is animal and I'm in its territory, right? This is my bag. So I didn't want to kill it. And so I went to click the NVGs into my helmet mount. And when I did it, I forgot it was a power saving feature. It turned them off. And so I click them in, I can't see shit. And then I hear like,
holy smokes.
And I was like, oh shit, and I fire off a round. The first round was a tracer. And so I could see it's like an incendiary round. I can see it with the naked eye and hit something. Right. And then I turn them on and off, and I can see it. It's just standing there, just all proud, like ready to go. And I just fired another round at it to scare it off. And then they both kind of trotted away. And then you can see a whole pack over behind them. And then I called in, like, defender control, stealth patrol, 1, be advised, 2 shots fired east of yours. And then, the command post was like, Roger, target. And I was like, laughing hyena. And like, it was bad, bro. I mean, they keyed the mic. They couldn't get a word out. It was 20 dudes in this command post just laughing their asses off because I'm talking about shooting hyenas. So anyway, I caught a lot of shit for not shooting that thing because, I was one of the better shots in my unit, and I talk a lot of smack when we go shoot. And they were like, sharpshooter Thompson can't hit a hyena that's 5 feet away.
You need to put that in your book. Have you started writing a book?
Let's do it. Yeah. I need some coaching on
that hyena story. Like, this ain't just for laughs. This is for hyenas or something like that. That's freaking. So take 10 minutes here. Talk us through now what you do in terms of being an airline pilot with United, flying overseas a ton, and then this patch of plastic that's out there that all of us, especially here in California and the West Coast, have heard about, and then this company ORRA, and really what your message is for the world. And take your time, please, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate being able to share this message with you and the whole Pacific Island crew because this is something that means a lot to all of us. This is it's important. So, one of the cool things about the military is I got to go to airborne school, right? I was airborne and I was paratrooper, and I rocked my back pretty good one time. And I just realized, man, like those pilots have a better gig. Like I want to do that. Like I don't want to jump out of these planes. I want to sit up there and I want to fly one of these buggers. And so I did. Like that's what I got out of the military. I did all civilian training. Flight instructed to build time, worked through the regionals, worked at, different airlines. And then I landed at the big show, United, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And now, like, I mean, I had that dream job, right? Like, I'm flying the 787. It's the coolest airplane in the world. By far, there's nothing better as far as airliners go. And I'm going to, I'm living that dream, right? I'm flying to Sydney, Australia. I'm flying to Tahiti. I'm flying over to London. And it's a really cool experience to just have exposure to all these cool cultures and all that. But I had a buzzkill moment a couple years ago where I was flying over the Pacific, and I was kind of on a northerly route, getting around some weather. And I realized, like, this route took us over where we never get over that far north. But this route took us over where the coordinates of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch are. And in that moment, I realized that this is a real problem. Like, it was all theoretical to me before that, it was just this problem that, like, no one's seen, right?
And you saw it.
Yeah, I knew. And so, like, this stuff is very hard. You can't see it with the naked eye, but I can, because it's microplastics. That's right. What's so bad about it. But I can see, okay, from this latitude all the way to this is the size of like a state. This is
right.
This is a problem, like, because I'm above it now, and this is all very tangible now. And listen, man, growing up, like I said, the Pacific was everything to me, right? It was my mother half the time. It was my friend, my best friend, the source of all my favorite memories. Every good surf session I ever had, every wipeout I ever had, like, all that, like, it encompasses my childhood, right? And so she was good to me, and to know that she's being choked out right now by our mess, right? Like, we did this, we're doing this. It hurt me in a very visceral way. And then, I got this little son that looks just like I did. He's a carbon copy of me. He's a total little shitbird, just like I was, and he's inheriting what's going to be an even bigger mess. And that's not okay. It made me embarrassed to be an adult, because we're fucking up in a serious way. And so I wanted to do something. What does a guy do about a garbage patch in the Pacific the size of Rhode Island? Like, there's no one guy doing anything, right? This has to be a collective energy. And I think that, obviously, having traveled for years and been in the military, like, I was no stranger to the problems of good gear and good travel gear. And I always wanted to do something about that. But then this was sort of the way that, like, hey, why don't I encompass a bigger problem into this small problem? Like, we need better gear, but we also need to fix this, right? And I have an amazing design team that are incredible at sourcing materials and doing things in a very innovative way. And so we said, hey, let's repurpose some of this ocean plastic, because that stuff, plastic gets to that gyre of trash in the Pacific from almost all over the world, right? And there's a lot of at-risk municipalities all through Southeast Asia and stuff that just don't have good recycling systems. And so we need to incentivize these folks to give those bottles a new home, to repurpose those things. And so we can do that through these materials that we use in this travel gear that we've made. And so that was how it all kind of came together. And then we're doing some really cool stuff where we're taking, standard EVA foams, which are historically bad for the environment, and we're replacing that with algae biomass foams, right? So this is sucking up CO2 from the atmosphere and then sequestering it so that it's got environmental impact and an impact on our atmosphere built into that bag, right? And then, we're also using airplane grade aluminum for all these bits instead of virgin plastics that break and then go sit in a landfill forever, So aluminum can get recycled, no problem. And so we're really trying to just build products in a smarter way that not only, like, we're solving this problem, you need some cool travel gear, you need something that works for this mission, whatever it is, but also let's take our overarching problems as a species and work towards those, right? And so it all kind of stemmed from that sort of gut shot flying over the Pacific garbage patch, but it's led to something very beautiful. And we're really hoping to inspire, not only, there's built-in impact to the goods that we are providing folks. But our most important thing is impact, right? So we want to inspire other brands to start doing the same exact thing. And I think that we're going to have great success with that.
No doubt. No doubt. Especially with a person like you who could tell a story with such sincerity and connect it to the why. And then so I really find that intriguing, that a lot of the reasons why companies fail is because their leadership is not able to convey a message that wins people's heart and mind.
Yeah.
So
well, some folks go into it for the wrong reasons, right? If you have a business and your overarching why is to make money, go home. Like nobody's got time for that, and you're not going to inspire your troops, right? You're not going to inspire your team. Like they're not going to be dedicated to that mission, right? There has to be a why that matters to folks to get true inspiration.
That's right, because especially if it's not something that is just a need, like we need water. People are going to buy water. We're going to use water that comes out of our public utilities. We need electricity. But when it's a product that we have a choice and we have a consumer option, that is one versus the other. So like we're already looking up what we're going to Maui next month. My wife and I are already looking up what ORRA bags we're going to buy. So we look forward to doing that, and then supporting a mission and a vision and a purpose and a person. So that's the thing, that for people that have consumer awareness, right? And this is for everybody, but not everybody has that awareness. And that's why I'm feel so honored to have you on the show, because you're connected to my home country. You know, I live in Elk Grove, California, and I'm really a lifeline Cali boy, you know, even though I was born in Tonga, but raised in Cali. And I've been here since I was 8 years old. I'm 45 now, so I'm tied into Cali, and the Pacific Ocean that's it for us. We're a Pacific people. My ancestors are from there, and that you guys would come up with a product and a service, and then really engage and invoke and empower other product brands and other industries to also just consider, right, Ryan? Like, hey, consider. Right?
It's not that hard. Hit me up, email me. I will walk you through it.
So in that, you said, hit me up, email me. What are your social media brands? How can people get a hold of you? Are you on LinkedIn? And I know we just we connected on all of those levels in the past 7 days, but could you share that with the audience?
Yes, sir. It's our website is weareorra.com. That's we are, and ORRA is spelled ORRA.com. And we've got handles. We are ORRA on all the socials. So hit us up, and hey, you don't have to buy one of these products to be a part of this tribe. You know, all you need to do is follow our mission, right? And just start trying to move through the world in a different way, just slightly smarter way. And listen, this is hard. It's really hard to do things in the most environmentally friendly way. We are just trying to start an initiative to take one small step at a time, all of us together as a people.
Right on. So shout out to Shoreview, who made my man Ryan. Shout out to the Upcountry Maui. My wife and I and the fam will see you on the 12th of April. And shout out to St. Paul, Minnesota, that helped create what it is that the rest of us in the world, we get to reap the benefits of the experiences that you've had. What are some other shout outs? Who would you like to shout out? And what is your final message here on the Coach V show? Like, what's your final world message? Because we're going to be on Dash Radio and then so that broadcasts all over the world. We'll be on my YouTube channel, Facebook Live, and then we'll also be on the Coach V podcast on Spotify. What is your message and your shout outs?
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, Mighty Paul, big shout out to him. He recently lost his auntie, and send Mighty Paul some love. He could use it right now. And of course, Brother Eddie, he's been instrumental in just really helping us get this message out there. And he he's our friend, right? He's a capitalist at heart, but you know what? Like he's wanting to save the world now. I can see it. There's some light bulbs going off in Brother Eddie's head. But most importantly, my wife, man, she has supported this mission from day one. She's a cancer surgeon. She has crazy long, busy days, and she comes home and then she's whipping up dinner. She's taking care of the kids, and I'm in here working my tail off so that we can have some success with this mission. And so she's picked up the slack in a crazy way. So I love that woman, and I owe her everything.
That's awesome. And then throughout all of the experiences you've had from, being a white boy Crip, and then being the Howley boy in upcountry, right? And then starting to piece things together and finish strong and finish high school. What is a overreaching and then that can impact all people message? What's that? Not just for ORRA, but for the man that we're featuring on the Coach V show. Because that's what we want to know. What is behind the man that created ORRA? What is Ryan Thompson's message?
I've done enough personal development work and men's work to know that there's no cookie cutter answer. There's no cookie cutter system that applies to everybody, right? Like you got to find what speaks to you, what speaks to your soul, and then follow that. But you got to make your own, right? But there are universal truths out there as well, and one of them is grit, right? Like have grit, and if I'll tell you what, all those folks that had it rough growing up, right? Like had trauma, like those traumas are your treasures. Like you were given a superpower. Congratulations. Like your stepdad whooped your ass growing up. Like thank that man. Your mom chose drugs over family. Like thank that woman. Like she gave you a superpower. You were battle tested, So don't identify as the victim to those things. Identify to someone who's been through that training, right? And then to those folks that haven't had that. My best friend had a perfect childhood. His parents are the nicest human beings I've ever met. But that fool knows that he has to test his own grit, right? So he's running Ironmans. You know how crazy an Ironman is? Like this runs Ironmans and he's testing his grit. Like, so test your grit. If you had it growing up, thank you. Like be appreciative of that. And if you didn't, test it. And then of course, surround yourself with good people. That's a universal truth, right? Like that saying that you are the average of the 5 closest people in your life. I believe that some version of that is true. And I've always been drawn to good human beings. And I think that is what led me into a direction that is much better than a direction I could have gone in many of my sort of times growing up. So just, go towards good people. And if you don't have them in your circle, Google it. Try to find others. Get out of that thing that you're in. You know what I mean? It's possible. So that's all I got. Have some grit and just surround yourself with good folks.
Man, that is awesome. So we have time for one Coach V hot seat question, and that is this. How do you respond when people say, and you say, who's Howley? And then they tell you in the Highlands, you Howley. How do you respond to that?
Listen, Howley means newcomer, right? And this is something that people should know when they go to the islands, and it applies to most of Polynesia. There's a Shoreview
or anywhere else, really, right? Real talk, right?
Yeah, there is a way to act, okay, and assimilate to that. So when you go to Kauai and you're hauling ass on the road, that's not how we do things here. You slow down, 15 miles an hour. There's no hurry. You're on island time, right? And so Howley, it can be used as a derogatory comment, or it can just be like, "What are you doing?" And so just know your role, chill out, and just feel the vibe, right? And do what these folks are doing, and then there's no problems. But Howley, that's what that means to me. Someone that just has no social awareness.
Right. Yeah. No, thank you for that. And thank you so much for coming on the Coach V show. How And what is the website that people can get on and order and not just support the mission, but buy themselves some high quality travel gear and bags? What is the website that we could purchase stuff?
It's weareorra.com. We're just switching that up today. So it's weareorra.com, and ORRA is spelled ORRA. And then our socials are all We Are ORRA. And we've got a YouTube channel that's ORRA, and you can kind of see what our story is and what these products are about, and the impact that we have built into these products. And like I said, you don't have to buy these things. Just join the mission. Just get on this train with us, and let's all make some impact together.
Yep. And one more time, it is we, so WERARE, ORRA, ORRA.com, correct?
That's right.
So that's the website. Check it out. Check your bags. I roll with all kind of bags, and everywhere I go speak for the company's organizations, they give me their bags.
Yeah.
And Nike is one of my favorite. I wear Nike all the time, and I have Nike travel bags. But ORRA, ORRA, is now going to be in our luggage, and then also my bags on a daily basis. So thank you so much for tuning in.
I want to get you a bag. I think the duffel is perfect for your mission. And I also, for your listeners, I want to give them a discount code.
Oh, yeah, we love discount codes. Yeah. What is that?
Coach V. Let's just type in Coach and V, and we'll get you a 15% off discount, show you some love, and spread that mana.
Thank you so much for that. And we really do appreciate the discount code. And please know that if you are going to weareorra.com, punch in discount code COACHV for your 15%, correct?
Yes, sir.
I love 15%. So thank you to everybody out there that's tuned in to see the feature on our newest Ohana, who has been Ohana longer than we even became Ohana, Ryan Thompson. And because really this is the reason why, because it's of great importance for each of us to better ourselves, not only just for the sake of being successful or achieving success, but for the sake of being our best. In doing so, we realize the best of our abilities, and that everything and anything that we dream and work for, grit, can be achieved. This is how this success coach, keynote speaker, and author and Hollywood radio show host lives, all about faith and family. Grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next time, it is your boy, Ryan Thompson, and Viliami Tafokta Tapel Avatui by saying peace, one love, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace.